church.
Bloody Roots.
Reverend Ian Christie is about to begin.
Bloody Roots.
Please turn to page 666.
From the pages of Sound of the Beast, your weekly heavy metal history lesson with Ian Christie.
Oh, greetings and welcome to Roots, your weekly metal history lesson, as today we enter part 2, the second stage of our extended farewell to Slayer. Today, focusing on the killing years, 1986 to 1991, and the albums Rain and Blood, Seasons in the Abyss, and South of Heaven. Transport yourself now to 1986. Imagine a world of Lionel Richie, Huey Lewis and the News, Whitesnake, Bon Jovi, and this. Prepare to meet the Angel of Death. You're listening to Roots on SiriusXM. Yes, and the hair-raising screams intact from early Slayer days, but notice there's already something massively different about Angel of Death. All of a sudden, Slayer have stopped singing about Satan, moving along to the real-life horror of Dr. Joseph Mengele and the Nazi fascination with the macabre medical experiments performed during World War II. And that song already getting the band's brand new partnership with Def Jam Records off to a rocky start. The music industry met this song with revulsion. Slayer's record was not listed on new release charts back in October 1986. There were problems with distribution, but I think, in the words of an Israeli metalhead from 20, 30 years later, interviewed in the film Global Metal, said, listen, our enemies are the people that deny that this happened. Slayer's song about the Holocaust is proof. And for that reason, it's the most important song to Israeli metalheads. Welcome to Roots. This is your weekly metal history lesson. I'm Ian Christie. I wrote the book Sound of the Beast, The Complete Headbanging History of Heavy Metal, and I'm the publisher of Bazillion Points Books, home to titles like Murder in the Front Row, shots from the Bay Area thrash metal epicenter, where you can see the very earliest stages of Slayer, along with bands like Megadeth, Metallica, Exodus, Testament, Death Angel, and many others. And a similar library of books like Swedish Death Metal, Metallion, and Choosing Death, an improbable history of death metal and grindcore, all at bazillionpoints.com. Today is our second installment in an extended series of a long goodbye to Metal Masters Slayer. Previously, we tackled the formation of the band and the Metal Blade Records years with the Show No Mercy, Hell Awaits, and Haunting the Chapel releases. After Hell Awaits, the band had significantly attracted the attention of music lovers everywhere, including New York-based rap mogul Rick Rubin. Now, like a lot of characters in hard-hitting rap music in the mid-1980s, Rick Rubin was raised on rock, actually enjoying huge success in 1986, the same year that Rain and Blood was released, with a crossover album combining Run DMC and Aerosmith. Def Jam in 1986, one of the hottest labels on the planet, home to bands including the Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, Run DMC, and Public Enemy, who we'll actually hear something from in a second, a hip-hop band daring enough to sample Slayer. And around this time, Rick Rubin and his partner Russell Simmons getting together a couple of ideas about nurturing rock bands and getting back to the basics of what this hard-hitting beat-based music was all about. In the hands of producer Rick Rubin, Slayer became a stripped-down, sporty, athletic kind of beast. Hell Awaits had been an album filled with long, extended, Merciful Fate-inspired, moody landscapes. All of a sudden, here comes Rain and Blood. You just heard possibly the most perfect, aggressive metal song of all time. I've always said, if there was one song you will play for the Venusians when they land on our planet, when we need to explain metal to them, it's going to be Angel of Death. This is the streamlined product of Slayer going into the laboratory, having liposuction to cut out every bit of atmosphere, indulgence, Baroque flourish. It's all getting down to the riffs, the aggression, and the intensity. And for the next 3 album streak that we're going to deal with today, the Def Jam, Def American years, the classic era, really, the killing era of Slayer, the South of Heaven, Seasons in the Abyss, and Rain in Blood era, these were the devilish goals that the band pursued. By this point, the concept of the big four of thrash metal already formed, with Anthrax, Megadeth, and Metallica all often running with their own major label record deals. Slayer, though, I have to say, remaining the most influential on younger bands of all of these, the most directly responsible for what you were starting to see around 1986. On the demo tape side of things, you had all of these bands in the underground beginning to experiment with death metal. Lots of Slayer riffs evident in what you were hearing back in those days. We're going to hear classic Slayer tracks from this period as death metalized, I guess, by the likes of Vader, Decapitated. There's even some grindcore treatments of classic Slayer coming up. Want to play a track here from the Rain and Blood album, proving that point. This is Malevolent Creation, classic Florida death metal band by way of Buffalo, New York. and tackling the creation of Slayer's Jeff Hanneman, Kerry King, Tom Araya, and Dave Lombardo. It's a song called Piece by Piece. You're listening to Roots, Farewell to Slayer, Part 2, The Killing Years, 1986 to 1991. I'm Ian Christie on SiriusXM.
That garbage.
The woman makes the men all pause. And if you got a woman, she might make you forget yours. There's a 5-letter word to describe her character, but her brain's being washed by an actor. And every real man that tries to approach comes the closer he comes, it gets just like a rope. I don't think I can handle. She goes channel to channel, home looking for that hero. She watched Channel Zero.
Yo, baby.
7548, she watched, she said, oh, add it up to zero, and nothing in her hand. She turns and turns, and she hopes and so. Off for real, she learns that it ain't true, no. But she won't survive and rather die than lie. For the fool, for some dude on the tube, I don't think I can handle. She goes channel to channel, cold looking for that hero. She watched Channel Zero. She watched
Yo, baby, you think I'm joking? You look like I'm joking. I ain't joking. Word up, baby. Yo, cut that garbage off now. Yo, I got the Tyson fight on. You know what I'm saying? Yo, so you can't be coming in here stagnating like that. You know what I'm saying? Yo, we get ready to watch the Super Bowl. We got a black quarterback, so step back.
Trouble vision for a sister, cause I know she don't know. I quote, her brain be trained by a 24-inch remote. Revolution, a solution for all of our children, but her children don't mean as much as the show. I mean, watch her worship the screen and fiend for a TV ad, and it just make me mad. I don't think I can handle. She goes channel to channel, cold looking for that hero. She watched Channel Zero.
Yo, baby, can't you see that's nonsense she watching? Look, don't nobody look like that. Nobody even live like that. You know what I'm saying? You watching garbage, nothing but garbage, straight up garbage. Yo, why don't you back up from the TV? Read a book or something. Read about yourself. Learn your culture. You know what I'm saying? Yo, let me tell you a little something. You're blind, baby. You're blind from the fact who you are because you're watching that garbage. You understand what I'm saying? Garbage. Nothing but pure garbage. You're blind, baby.
Time universal. My body
Whoa, Public Enemy and then Judas Priest. What is going on here? Let's bring this back around into focus, all right? First off, do not tell me you had any problem listening to a full 3 minutes of Public Enemy, Slayer's label mates in 1986, who in 1988 sampled Angel of Death for their classic She Watched Channel Zero. Another example of how much that hard-hitting side of hip-hop, the serious side of hip-hop, owed to metal and rock in that point. And it was a two-way street at that point because Slayer also benefiting heavily by being on the Def Jam record label. In the eyes of the non-metal world, it meant this is the chosen band, the most aggressive, the most precise, and the most relevant in a way that the hip-hop bands were relevant in the late 1980s. This was about serious stuff. Pursuing Jeff Hanneman's interest in war, continuing with tracks about death on the battlefield, the horrors and the violence of warfare. Abortion, the deadly attacks on the environment. And of course, musically and live, nobody could touch the mighty Slayer. And then wait, why throw in a Judas Priest song? Well, all of a sudden, after doing Rain and Blood, Slayer decides, look, we aren't going to top that in intensity, or at least, even if we made a record 150% as intense as Rain and Blood, it wouldn't have the same impact as Rain and Blood did. So what they did is pull back a little bit, let off on the gas, and show their true chops and emotional heft as a more traditional heavy metal band. They covered that Judas Priest song you just heard on the South of Heaven record released in the summer of 1988. And instead of being purely a radical element dropping seemingly out of nowhere, they showed their allegiance to classic Iron Maiden and Judas Priest with more twin guitar harmonies courtesy of Misters Hanneman and King. Now, as the band was starting to earn some gold record awards and chart positions around the world, there was turmoil in the band. Drummer Dave Lombardo, feeling like his life was too disrupted, he wasn't getting his fair share, exited the band in late 1986, only to return partially into 1987. So this rift that came to haunt the band in later years already showing itself just as the band was like reaching peak intensity. Here are a bunch of those more classic heavy metal tracks by the almighty Slayer from the South of Heaven release and its follow-up, October 1990's Seasons in the Abyss. And I'll include a little bit of live Lombardo-era madness from this time period, just so you can see what was making headbangers go into absolute frenzies at Slayer shows, ripping up seats, throwing them through the air, collapsing balconies, causing real true damage and mayhem everywhere they went. This was a truly scary ascendant metal band. Some covers by Poland's Vader and Decapitated and Germany's Dew-Scented ought to show you how Slayer paved the way for the music of the 90s and beyond with these records. And, well, some other surprises coming up. I'm Ian Christie. This is your weekly metal history lesson, going country by country, time period by time period, or in this case, honoring a milestone landmark band, one of the most crucial bands in metal history. This is The Roots, Farewell to Slayer, Part 2, focusing on the killing years, 1986 to 1991.
eternity. I'm trained by more observers, a dawn of very deity. Chaos, rampant in an age of distrust. Confrontation, simple survivor. Only knows out of heaven. Only knows out of heaven. Only knows out of heaven. Only knows out of heaven.
from the pages of Sound of the Beast. Your weekly heavy metal history lesson with Ian Christie. Liquid Metal!
Yes, and then that happened. Slayer broke through and became such a part of the cultural fabric that nobody involved in music was unaware of them. Even if you knew nothing about heavy metal, maybe you knew Motorhead, Black Sabbath, Metallica, and Slayer. Tori Amos, kind of a musical prodigy capable of handling anything thrown at her, taking Rain and Blood, stripping all the aggression, but keeping just that chilling undercurrent. That's pretty brilliant way to incisively look at a Slayer song and take out some of that special meat that makes Slayer Slayer. Tori Amos hats off to a non-metal cover of a classic metal track. I am Ian Christie. This is Roots, Farewell to Slayer, Part 2, The Killing Years, 1986 to 1991. And we've heard some music from 1991's Decade of Aggression, the live double album. We've heard Seasons in the Abyss. We've heard South of Heaven, and we went through Rain and Blood. I guess it's worth mentioning a peak thing that happened around this time, a peak event, was the lengthy American Clash of the Titans tour that brought together Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, and Alice in Chains. Really a monumental package tour of that day. Also went on in Europe with a slightly different lineup, Testament, Suicidal Tendencies, Megadeth, and Slayer. And this flurry of activity, success after creative success, rampaging, ravaged live venue after rampaging, ravaged live venue. In May of 1992, drummer David Lombardo leaving Slayer, and with it, I think, taking the bare-knuckled essence of what the band was at its very beginning. It was going to be very, very difficult to replace Lombardo, and I guess we'll see how that turns out in our next installment of this series, saying farewell to Slayer. Thanks for joining me on Roots today. I'm Ian Christie. I wrote Sound of the Beast, the complete head-banging history of heavy metal, featuring interviews with the members of Slayer, as well as 100 other heavy metal luminaries, going all the way back to the first Black Sabbath album through the 21st century. Also, please check out books including Choosing Death, Swedish Death Metal, and the early Slayer, early Metallica, early Death Angel, early Testament, early Megadeth, early Possessed photo book, Murder in the Front Row. It's all at bazillionpoints.com. Thank you very much. It's hard to recreate this adrenaline rush of Slayer. It's hard to even imagine that this actually is a farewell, as it feels just like another celebration of the mighty accomplishments of this truly timeless and world-changing metal band. Started off this hour with Angel of Death from Rain and Blood, and I guess we should end this with the ending of one of the most perfect metal albums. I'm leaving you in the hands of Hanneman, King, Araya, and Lombardo, and all I can say is, I hope you brought an umbrella. I'll see you again next time. This has been Roots, Farewell to Slayer, Part 2, The Killing Years, 1986 to 1991. Thanks again. Know your roots!
Repeating words echoing through your mind. Chanting lines of blind witchery to save yourself from extinction. Wanting to die is your reason to live. New life born from the oppressed. Taste your blood as it trickles through the air. Another casualty beyond the shadows you fall. Losing ground, the fate you feel draws near. Fatality, reality, away.
heard Ian Christie's Bloody Roots, Liquid Metal's hour-long crash course in headbanger history. Hear it